Hi, I'm Ian, and I'm the founder of Coffee Mentality.
A typical day, could you talk us through like a typical day? Like how does it normally start for you?
Okay, yeah, from, normally wake up 4 o'clock, 4:15, and do the shower, prepare, making sure that I've got everything in the van for the day. And then from the house, I go straight to either our East Brisbane cafe and then just see everything is all set, coffee, someone's there, of course, and then a Woolloongabba's warehouse, and just to make sure add a bit more supplies to the cafe. And then for a Thursday, normally we've got Jack to open the day, and then we've got selections of coffees to taste. And and then from there I wait for 6:15, 6:30 to actually then head to Eagle Farm and then do my coffee run. I still like to kind of do the work myself for a few hours because I like to be able to still make coffee and still talk to customers, other than of course just me telling people what to do, how to do it. So at least my guys know that, hey, I still make coffee. In fact, I think I probably make more coffee than them that they do in the cafe for 8 hours. So
Right.
yeah, so at least they can say that, oh, I'm still at home sleeping while I'm here working or anything like that. So
Okay.
they know I still do the work as well.
Right.
And that's what I like. I like to be hands-on. So yeah.
Right. Is that something like is that a sense of like walking the talk and help inspiring your team, like modeling it for them?
Not really. I don't even think about like that. I just love what I do, and I think when we started this, it was meant to be more of a job, so we can pay the bills, pay a mortgage, and all that. And after a few years, you kind of get into like a rabbit hole where you started to learn more about coffee, and there's really into it. And for me, I've always liked to dig deep and find the essence of things. And there is always, because it's a business, it's always about the money. But but I always believe that the money is all the product of your hard work. So I've always wanted to dig deep into the essence of it. So what's the essence behind all this, coffee? Why is it so important to a lot of people? And then how is it, because even coffee, if you get into the industry, a lot of people are very passionate about it. It's almost like a religion, and if I can say that.
Yeah.
And so that's one side of it, and there's also that people side of it, that it is also an opportunity. It's always like a lot of people's dream to open their own cafe.
Right.
So this is another side where it is not necessarily for that passion, but it is that novelty of having a space to kind of socialize.
Right.
So, and then of course, now knowing about the business, been in the business for a while, there is also that impact in the community, the environment, because it's such a big industry. If you put it into scale, you're technically looking at, as I mentioned to you before, it's the second most popular beverage. If we're to include hot drinks, if it's cold drinks, then we've got the tea. But still, even if it's the third, that's still amazing.
What is it behind?
So behind tea, if we include the cold drinks,
Okay.
then tea will be second.
Right.
First, obviously, it can beat water. And if it's a hot drink, then definitely coffee will, be ahead of tea.
And for the morning coffee run, like now you're at the point in the business, like you have a team, you could send someone to go and do that run. But what is it about that you want to keep doing it yourself?
I think for me to run a business, I'm not the type of person who's just going to be telling people what to do.
Okay.
And I still believe that if you are a good leader, you have to actually be the example. You have to actually show to them. And our job is very simple. It's not about the making of the coffee, which is important to this business. It's actually about the talking to the customers, get to know the people, which is, I think, the real business. Coffee is basically a novelty for all. It's like a treat. So people go out for the coffee, but really it's the coffee is like something to a reason to get out. But once you get to a conversation with someone, that is more of like the bonus. And that's what I find is the real hard work, because one, English is not my first language, and I am not very eloquent in terms of explaining my situation. I think somebody told me I'm not a salesman. I am more of a storyteller.
Right.
So for other people, they can probably say, or explain what I have in mind in a sentence, but I have to tell a story for most people to kind of understand what I have in my head.
Right.
So yeah, and I like that because I can express myself, and through it, I think people see the passion that I do, and yeah, it's almost like funny to say that. I keep on telling myself, am I trying to make myself believe that I really love what I do, or I really do? So
Right.
it's hard. So I think people also resonates with that, and they can really see it. So, and I hope that's what I wanted to actually show my team, that I love what I do. So for me, a busy day at work and an ordinary day at work is just it's time well spent. That's it. It's not hard work or any more or any less. So it's
Right.
just time. It's
Right.
still the same 8 hours, right?
Right. Right. Okay. And you said you started it as a job. Why did you start it? What led you to start a business?
When I first arrived in Australia, I could not remember, few years ago, I think 17, 18, something like that. Yeah.
Right.
I'm not an academic person where I've graduated bachelor's in arts or whatever.
Right.
So I don't see myself as an academic. I love more of a practical, and even though what I do, I always give my 110%. So a job, my dad always tells me, if you've got a job, you can buy your food, you can buy the things that you want, you can raise your family. That's always what's in my head. So I'll just have to find a job and get work,
Right.
and earn. And that's what it is. So now when I arrived in Australia, I was knocking on doors. I was doing contact center. I was doing like every job that I could. Like I was even selling hair products for a friend, knocking on doors like, hey, hello, you look like you need some hair done or something, whatever.
Right.
So yeah. And I did that. So because I have to find a job, I get my job, but I don't seem to kind of land into, a really sort of a career somehow, because I didn't study for it. And then I realized this one thing that I really have to learn, which is the language, because Australian language was so hard.
Right.
And when I first arrived, I have this very strong American English.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, hello. How are you?
Right.
So, because that's the medium of teaching that we have in the
Yeah.
Philippines.
Yeah.
And it was so hard for Australians to kind of understand the way I talk.
Right.
And even sometimes I say that's easy. And now I don't even hear the difference of me talking before something. I cannot hear any difference.
Right.
But that was one thing that was challenging, because no one understands what I'm saying. Maybe because of the Filipino accent plus the American English.
Yeah.
So I said, I have to learn the language. So I tried to find step-by-step ways of doing it. So I said, maybe a contact center might be a first way to go. So Vanessa helped me out. She did the application and all that. I was like, I'm not good at,
Yeah.
all this. And yeah, so I landed in one, and so happened to be doing good at it. I don't know why, but it seems to be maybe because that I'm just so challenged to actually learn the language. that I was like so focused at it, and I always try to give myself 110%. And I enjoy that process of trying to do something for a reason or having that purpose. And then, I was then at the first 2 years, it was a challenge for me because I was still thinking that, I'll be, retiring back to the Philippines. Every time I see, how much is that? It's like, $2. I was like, you just then have to calculate automatically in your head. It's about 60, 70 pesos and all that. So my head, or my head is still in the Philippines, but physically I'm here in Australia.
Right.
So
did you see it as a temporary thing?
yeah, that was a natural thing for me to do. Like the peers that I have, the people that I meet, that was it. So I feel like I'm still not at home. So I haven't really progressed. I haven't really learned as much. And then one day, I realized I have to change the way I think. And I thought that was the time when I realized, you know what, Australia is my new home now. I'm always going to be Filipino by blood. And this is going to be the place that I will be, living or staying for a long time. And from there, I moved to a newer job. I got, working now in the city. And that was like, that movement was like, wow, this is good. So if I change the way I think, my action changes as well. So I think trying to backtrack now, that was the change of how the brand actually started.
Okay.
Changing the way you think can change the way you move in the future. Every single thing that you make, because your perception of things are different,
Right.
will also change. So from there, unfortunately, it was a good run. I was working in a bank, which I am not finance background even.
Right. Without a finance background. Okay.
In the Philippines, that's never heard of.
Right.
So I've got customers and clients that I used to connect with, tell them about the business or what I do before. And some of them are still my customer now.
Right.
In my business. So, which is really, it's nice to see. And that was like 13 years ago, 14 years ago. And then, unfortunately, I got redundant. So that was my second redundancy. Because first, when I was in the Philippines, working in the airline closed, I got redundant. So, it was like, okay. But the good thing about redundancy, I did not really see it as an end. It's an end of the career for me, because I started from doing whatever, and I ended up with that in just a matter of 2-3 years. So I know I got now the ability, I've got now the language,
Right.
that people understand.
Yeah.
I got now the confidence. I've got now the mentality that, I can do this. That was easy. So I went along, tried to do, so what they say, a career path. So I ended up working in the government.
Okay.
And well, that was still a good move, I think. But unfortunately, it's not for me. It's something that I realized that things that I am not in control of. So in terms of policies, and that you cannot put the people side, or how would I explain this one? If it's already black and white and that's the only thing that you can decide, one, it's not really you, and it's not you, meaning that's not you making that decision.
Yeah.
It's already decided for you.
Right.
And second, there is no emotion in it. So I think that job was not for me.
Right.
So
Like this, like more bureaucratic tasks without like creativity. in
yes,
there?
that's
Right.
right. It's really, and again, because of that, I was able to actually learn a lot of things. And this is why everything that I learned from those experience, I really wanted to put it in this business of mine that,
Right.
okay, I've experienced it, that it's like that. There is no emotion. It doesn't have to be that way. So yeah, then I went back into banking
Yeah.
because it's where I found myself to be good at what I do. And then after a while, it becomes monotone because you're already good. Like, yeah, I can do the job. I do these jobs. I pay the bills and so on. And I realized, Vanessa said, you bring home work and tomorrow you still have work. Why are you doing that to yourself? You might as well work for yourself. And that was actually the start. It was like, oh, okay. Yeah, at least the effort that you put goes back to you.
Right.
So,
What,
yeah, that's.
what was the work that you? What was the extra work that you were doing at that time?
No, so I was doing loan documents. So I sometimes bring it home. I do, at home. So why are you doing at home? You should be doing that one at work. It's like, oh, because I have to do other things tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, but then it never stops. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
the
You're
moment
getting caught into the busyness.
yeah. But for me, it's just work. Like I don't even take lunch. Everybody's saying at work, like, oh, you should go have your lunch. It's just for me, like, when you go work, you stop and you eat and then you sleep and you wake up, you work again. Because like what I said, my dad says, if you got to work, you can pay your bills.
Yeah.
You can. That's all for me. It's just passing time. But then there is no emotion. So that was the problem. There was no emotion. So then I said, if I'm gonna give myself a job, this is when Vanessa invested on me. It was like, oof, this is my future. This is my retirement. So that's what she was saying. So that's when I realized if we're gonna put on something in there, we have to do it differently. We cannot be doing what every business is doing. And this is me saying myself that I have never even run myself a business.
Right.
So
Yeah, you have no at this point you have no background in entrepreneurship.
yeah, nothing. Yeah.
No, is there any family members that were running businesses?
We did used to run a sort of a canteen food business, but that's about it.
Okay, right.
But there's no emotion. It's just a process. It's just a process. So I said, if I'm gonna live my life deciding that I'm gonna do this, one is I'm gonna give myself 110%, and I have to give my heart to it as well. And that means I'll have to be happy doing what I'm doing. I have to learn it, the ins and outs, and I have to do it. And I have to have a purpose doing it. It's not going to be just for the sake of money. Because looking at the essence of things, if you put your heart, your work on things that you do, money will always come. There is always that. In my life, I've been into situations that I've never expected myself to land, but ended up there. So I don't know if you call that one luck, or maybe just the universe out there. So I take advantage of those.
Right.
Again, I'm not academic, but I ended up working in a finance. I've got friends out there who studied 5 years of their life to be able to graduate commerce.
Right.
I didn't even finish it. I ended up working in the bank. So you know what I mean. So there's something in the universe that tells you what to do. So I wanted to actually share that with other people. So in order for me to do that, I must have a purpose to do. What am I doing this for? Why am I doing this for yourself? In the beginning, of course, it was a decision that we have to, because I'm already working, I'm already doing, to give myself a job, because we have to pay the bills.
Yeah.
That is the reality of life. That's the reality of the world, right? It's all about the money. But thinking about life in itself as well, I think there's also that living part. So if you're living, you're enjoying it, you are already doing the hard work. Of course, money will come. So we did not focus on the money trying to establish this business. We focused to give ourselves a job. That was the focus.
Right.
But yeah, learning through that process, 13 years after, we were able to find ourselves what the business is building on right now, which is the values. So there has to have a criteria. We cannot just be continuously doing a business without a direction, without a purpose,
Right.
without sort of guidance or guiding ways to get around. So that was now formulated as we went through the business.
Right, right. So 13 years ago, a few redundancies, a few service jobs later, a banking job in finance, and then you made the decision to move towards emotion and a meaningful creative life or livelihood.
Yes.
What did that look like? What was the first steps?
It was challenging, of course, because it's new to me, environment wise. The whole customer base is new to me.
Yeah.
Running a business is new to me.
Right.
Running your own business, in fact, in someone's money is invested on that one is new to me.
Yeah.
And making coffee as well is new to me. A product that it's not even quite popular here as well, in terms of instant coffee. So we're doing more barista made coffee. So that was my introduction to modern coffee, if I may to say.
Yeah.
And it was weird. It was like awkward in the start, but I always think of myself as like a young kid. When you start, you always have to learn to trace a letter. Once you're comfortable tracing a letter, then you remove the letter that you're tracing. You just have to follow by memory.
Right.
And then from there, you just have then to add your personal touch and put a little bit of a tail on that letter.
Okay.
And that becomes your personality. So that's the sort of the guiding path that I have, because I was on my own. I've got I'm lucky as well that, I have to say, I've got someone who's actually helped me learn, the barista ways as well, which I'm very much connected with him until today, which is really, really great.
Right, right. And who was that? Were they based here or?
They're based here, so Raihan, if I had to say that word, So he's looking after a big, coffee company as well here in Brisbane. So we work together, and that's basically my first introduction to coffee, I think. So
And why coffee? Why did you choose that? Were you looking for something meaningful? And
in the beginning, it was like coffee is quite popular. We're trying to find a low risk. If that was, I think that was the idea.
Right, and this is around 2010, is it? 13?
Yes, around that 2010, 2011.
Okay.
We were trying to find. We do not have much investment.
Yes.
It was a risk that if we are to lose an investment, we still keep an asset. That was it. So the wise choice there was, okay, we will invest in a business, but that leaves us with an asset, which is the coffee van.
Okay.
So at least, you lose a little bit of the money, but you've got an asset. So it's something that you still can sell. So really, it's the low cost sort of investment for us in that time. We don't have much.
Right. As opposed to like leasing a place where if you lose that, then it's leased, someone else owns it anyway. Okay.
Exactly. That was the idea.
Okay.
And then from there, we just kind of, again, trace the letters, how it's done, and follow the path. And then from there, it becomes then you're settled. What are you going to do next? So I then tend to work with people. So you're working now with people. And then for me, I'm not contented with just doing the work. I wanted to understand, okay, why are these people doing this job?
Yeah.
What is the purpose of these people? Why do they have to be employed for a few period of time and then they travel? So what is it? What's the essence? So for them, which is very common at that time, a lot of Australians love to travel. They save up money and they travel.
Yeah.
And I think that was a good sort of encouragement. And from a Filipino background, we don't have that. We have like, you work until you die,
And maybe you go back home to visit family, that sort of thing.
Yeah, but, that's it. Once you work, you stay and don't move until they let you go. That's what it is. Here is like, you work, and then once you've achieved, your ultimate goal was to travel. Once you have achieved your financials that you need to travel, then you go.
Right.
It's just new to me to comprehend something like that. I was like, what are you going to do when you come back? It's like, find again another job.
Right.
So the confidence that I see in people, that it's easy to find a job. You
Okay.
just need to be confident. So that actually gave me as well a bit of a confidence boost somehow for me. So when I met these people, this young man actually come and, just random customers was like, oh, how do you do this? How do you do that? I started asking questions. And first he said, oh, I've always wanted to open my own cafe, but, I tried to, find work, but nobody's hiring me.
Yeah.
And he said, why is that? Because I don't have experience. I was like, well, if you're patient, I can teach you everything I know. It does not cost you anything. But, if you're interested, I'm happy to spend time. But, you have to find your way to my place and do that.
Right.
So that was the start.
How long had you been in the game at that point?
About 2-3 years.
2-3 years?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
So I don't even have any plans of opening other shop. I was just enjoying what I'm doing.
Yeah.
My goal was to pay off a debt.
Yeah.
Like everyone else.
Right.
That was it. And then as I'm learning with this gentleman, he says, I really wanted to open a cafe. And first I told him, don't worry too much about that. Just learn to make coffee first.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, I'll teach you,
Fundamentals.
but I'm not going to guarantee you any job because I cannot afford you. I don't have a position.
Right.
We only have our, weekend gig.
Yeah.
And then he picked it up quite easily. It was like, you picked it up quicker than I did. You must be very good then,
Yeah.
Excuse me. So I said, why don't you, work for me for, on the weekend?
Yeah.
And then,
Was the van only going out at the weekend at that point?
no, it's Monday, 6 days.
Okay.
6 days. So,
Right.
and then now is part of the weekend team. And we were just having fun. Even Vanessa's able to spend a bit more hours there as well.
Right.
And then he said he wanted to open a cafe. I says, okay, that's going to be risky for you. He said,
Yeah.
but I wanted to know how. I was like, why don't we do it together?
Right.
So you run it like your own. We'll find a sort of cheap place to do it. So this is just out of, again, out of the universe that it will just come. And then
Right.
with Vanessa's sort of guidance and help, she was able to actually find, these places, which she's very good at finding stuff.
Right. And up until this point, 2-3 years into your coffee journey, you've just been based in the van?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you go on a joint venture into a bricks and mortar venue or location.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So as soon as because we've never really planned to have other cafes.
Right.
We've never really, we just, that sort of, our South Brisbane cafe was just out of the blue that, hey, if you want to open a cafe, for as long as you're going to commit there for 1 year, let's open it together.
Right.
I was like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And then, so there he was, working 1 year. It says, and then after 1 year, what are you going to do? I says, because for me, it's hard to kind of explain because I like the idea where people can grow. Like, I know it's quite contrary to what I'm saying because I'm in this industry and I'm stuck in it, but I love what I do. So for these young kids, I want them to pursue other things or work for other people and
Right.
experience it.
Yeah.
So after that, it says, why don't you work for other people? So this is before the cafe, actually. And see, it's like, why would you let me go? I already know how to do the job. It was like, but, you've been here for about a year. You can try and work. Maybe I'm not teaching you the right thing. So, I'm just doing what I'm doing because I love what I do. So it doesn't really feel like work.
Right.
So he was like a bit disappointed. It was like, why would you do that? Like, and so, he left. 3 months after he came back and he says, oh, wow, I understand what you're trying to say. And then now he was like a head barista of one of the cafes in the city. And then that's when we decided to open a cafe. And he says, so I'm going to run it. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll bring you back. So that's when, he pretty much set up that cafe in our South Brisbane.
This is the first one?
This is the first one, yeah.
Okay.
And it's really, everyone sort of put on effort. Vanessa, Paul, this gentleman. And And from there, he says, okay, 1 year I will start my own cafe. That was the intention of running his own cafe eventually after this.
In 1 year's time. So
In 1
setting a
year's time.
goal.
Yeah, that's his
Okay.
goal. So
Yeah.
that was the purpose. We have to do this. We have to find a purpose. What are we doing this on for? I'm only holding it for, I think, 3 years. It's just a really tiny hole in the wall. If it doesn't work, then that's what it is. And
Right. But
So-
your fallback when you first started out was like, if this fails, we still have an asset.
Yes.
But this time, what was the idea?
the idea was for him to actually run his own, and
Okay.
eventually it becomes his cafe.
All right.
That was the idea. But then a year after, he says, I want to get a house. So I want to own a house.
Right.
So the purpose now is different.
Yeah.
He says, okay, you can stay for another year, and then we'll aim for your house. And then year after that, he's now got a property.
Right.
So which is good. And then of course he has to pay his bills, so we have to work together. So
Yeah.
it becomes like, okay, aren't you bored yet? It's like, no, because I've got a goal. I'm now responsible for a property. And then from there, he was able to meet one of our baristas as well,
Right.
who is now his wife. Was now the wife,
Yeah.
and expecting soon, actually. So which is good. So they all met in there. So since he decided that they will settle down, I said, I think this is not a good career. This is not a good, job for you.
Yeah.
You have to be looking something more substantial.
Right.
That you can actually raise your family, because I'm not going to be here I'm not going to be, running this for the entire thing unless you're going to run it yourself. But I know how hard it is to be running your own, even small business, and to raise a family at the same time is not going to be any good.
Right.
So lucky he was able to actually land himself. And now he's a police officer.
Okay. Right.
So that was the start. And then from there, that gave me an idea that if we've got good purpose, I think the people will be motivated. If there is a goal for people to work, that means they've got a focus. So now it is part of our business when we hire people that we have to understand what their life goals are. No matter
Right.
how, there's no such thing as silly, but no matter how quirky it is, how different it is,
Yeah.
but at least I know while they work with us, I also am able to, how would I say, I'm not taking credit, but I'm able to be part of that achievement that they're going to be while they are with us.
Right. Right.
And that also motivates me.
Okay.
And
And that's not the usual role of an employer. What is the purpose there?
the purpose is really for them to actually pursue what they wanted to do in life.
Right.
Regardless, whatever it is, they can be like an astronaut for all they want. Like all the more be beneficial for me because hey, that's my crew. Like
Right.
You can say that, but I think 99.9% of our crew have always had goals that they wanted to achieve.
Yeah.
Trish, I cannot afford her. She's already professional. She will fight with everyone just to get a shift. I'm actually worried this Saturday because I don't know whether if I'm going to give her a shift. But she's working on Friday and then she's working Saturday night. I'm not thinking of putting her a shift in the morning. I think she's probably already sent me a message now. She wants to be that. And for me,
Right.
to see and hear people having that connection with our business, we must be doing something right. And I know I cannot explain that. And I don't have a rule book to follow. I only have our business values that's guiding us since the very beginning of having our first employee until we got here, and it has always worked. So I think we'll stick with that. And talking to Vanessa on the way here, with all these economic changes in there, we cannot change what brought us here
Yeah.
because
Which is what?
we cannot, like, I always see in this world now, I don't want to be preachy or anything. This is where I try to hold myself back. Money seems to be the driver of all things.
Yeah.
Commercialization, you have to be big
Yeah.
to be better to be successful, to be credible, to have that authority. But for me, I think money is the byproduct of people's effort, dedication,
Yeah.
loyalty, hard work,
Right.
consistency, things like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, I want that to be the sideline. So let's focus on the essence. Okay. So we need to find people with maturity, people, what do you call it? Not necessarily skills. So skills we can teach, but passion, we cannot teach, attitude, we cannot teach. So, and it's either people have grown into those characters, or I don't know. It's hard to explain. So, yeah.
Right. So you want to sort of project that passion and attract that in as well.
I've got this thing. What I'm saying is like, in my sort of coffee world, I tell myself, I want to extract this brewing passion on people.
Right.
So every person, I believe they always have this passion of doing something in the time of their life. But the thing with passion, I understand from my own experience, is it comes and goes at different level. You might be passionate of having to create your own sort of video games. You're passionate about doing gym life. You're passionate about doing diet stuff. There's that time in your life. But the good thing about passion as well is, if you're looking at it from an outsider, if someone is passionate in front of you, whatever it is that you tell them or, help them with, they seem to absorb all that because they are so into it that they will take everything for whatever it is.
Right.
And that's only a short period of time. So realizing that, and from my business running, I want to tap into those ideas where I don't want people to become blinded by the passion, especially running a cafe now, because I'm passionate to open a cafe. It's always been my dream.
Yeah.
Now, then becomes too emotional about it. I'm going to spend this much, that much. And then, all of a sudden it just doesn't work. I'm not saying as an expert, but that's just basing on my experience.
Right.
So, working with our team now, one example is I met this one employee of mine, was fresh from overseas, arrived 6 months. He's got this passion ever since that I've always wanted to open a cafe.
Right.
So this is by realizing, the people that we work with. He says, I've always wanted to open my cafe. This is considering we already have our South Brisbane cafe. Mm-hmm. So I'm looking for someone that can take over a South Brisbane cafe. Someone's, passionate, mature, and all that, as I'm saying earlier.
Yeah.
But he seemed to have a different. He really the emotion is really within. It's hard to explain, and he's quite a quirky personality as well, because for other people he would find it very unconventional. But so I ask him, how much have you got? What are you thinking about opening cafes? Like, I have to I'll save at least 120,000. Like, huh? Really? Well, why is that? Are you looking at like a McDonald's type of cafe, like really grand? No, just wanted a small cafe that I can be an owner operator and talk to people. It's like, why don't you open tomorrow? It's like, what do you mean? I was like, just go out and find a place and open a cafe. I was like, isn't that easy? It was like, yeah, it is easy. You just need a coffee machine, a grinder, and a coffee. Isn't that what you want? He says, no, but what do you mean no? So it's hard to explain. So he says, I thought we have to spend this much. No, once you got, find a place. So we said, how much have you got? He said, I've only got about 5,000.
Right.
Maybe. He said, and probably I can borrow 2,000 from my partner.
Right.
So $7,000. It was like, when do you want to open? It's like, really?
So he thinks he's got 5%. or thereabouts of what he
so
needs.
he couldn't believe that, you can open cafe for like $5,000 or $7,000, in fact.
Right.
So he said, okay, we'll look for a place. And, I've always liked the challenge of trying to find the essence of things. It cannot be just 100,000. So again, my boss found this place that's always been, advertised anyway. I said, oh, why don't we just ask? And he says, oh, yeah, you can do this place. It's quite really, you wouldn't imagine it to be a cafe. So, yeah, we can do up this place, but, this is going to be, you're going to be doing most of the work.
Yeah.
And then we were able to agree on a price. It was like, you know what, let's just do it for try. Because really you wanted to open a cafe, right? Let's open a cafe.
Right.
Even if it's just going to last 2 weeks, at least, hey, you've opened a cafe. You made that first step. It's not like you're just going to dream about it, right?
Right.
So at least now you're really making it. So that was the challenge. And then he went on with it, like really did it up himself, found these other guys that he met on sports, and then they demolished the whole place. And guess what happened in 2 weeks? They're almost, actually 3 weeks, they were able to actually set up that sort of cafe.
Right.
And it was actually bigger than our cafe. And I knew there was potential in that space. And a few years after, that his main income
Right.
for $5,000, even less investment.
Initial investment. Wow.
Initial investment onto that space.
Right.
So now he's got probably about 6 employees
Wow.
that he works in. Again, what I'm saying is it is hard, of course. It's not easy, but what I'm saying is like just make the first step bit by bit.
Yeah.
Try to be logical, not emotional on
Right,
things.
right.
And that's why we're not trying to be expert in here, but if it's really the dream that you wanted to do it, just do it. Of course, if you're scared to lose 100,000, don't invest 100,000. Just invest for 5,000.
Right. See if
if
it
you
works.
lose it, see if it works.
Yeah.
Guess what happens? Probably 5,000. His 5,000 return of investment in a matter of 2 months.
Yeah. Wow.
So now in 2 months, he said, you know what? You got 10,000 to spend now. He says,
Right.
what do you mean?
Yeah.
Like you got 10,000 because you can make $5,000 in 2 months.
Right. Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me, like I can think of the similar thing in filmmaking, where even the Spielbergs and the biggest names you can think of, at some point they were doing some version of indie filmmaking, and they were able to show someone what they could do on a budget. They were able to show someone that they could make amazing things happen on these small budgets, and then slowly by slowly they were able to increment that budget, and someone was able to trust them. They're like, oh, okay, if you can do this with that, then let's give you this much and see what you can do. And then they make the most of that.
Yes,
and then suddenly they're on, James Cameron 300 million Titanic film. Like, you can follow those sort of stories and see in a similar fashion.
And it's exactly, that is what I wanted to actually test, because the world now, let me backtrack.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do now is to make the most of what we have,
Yes.
to the extent that you're being creative. That's where I think creativity then comes out. Because the common thing is, if you got the budget, you always go for the easy option,
Yes.
which is let's buy this.
Yeah.
Let's have that. The
Yeah.
problem with that is it's good for the economy because we're spending money, right?
Yes.
But this is the problem. We become part of that cycle of commercialization. So we know there's a lot of things that are still okay, but we just have to make the most of it until it kind of sort of dies out.
Yeah.
But because it's that novelty of, because it's new, it must be good.
Yeah.
Forget about
The shiny
that part.
object syndrome.
Yeah, forget
Yeah.
about the part.
Yeah.
But find the essence of repurposing stuff. I think those are, the mentality that we should get back into. I think what the world needs now is truth, right? In terms of, okay, having to sit down with your employee. What do you really want? What I want. I'm not going to promise you anything that I cannot give. But this is what we have. You are good. I'm not the best.
Yeah.
But if you're happy to be with us, we will try and accommodate
Right.
that. But this is what we have. But we will work together, things like that. So
Right.
finding the essence of things instead of the easier solution. Find the joy in the journey, in the problem solving,
Yeah.
in brainstorming. That's the fun part, isn't it?
Right,
That's the part. This is where creativity comes out. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, actually,
Yeah.
maybe we can do this, and you can laugh about it. But guess what? There's some truth in that,
Right,
Because you
right.
mentioned it.
Yeah.
So that's and I always bring this one out to the guys. We all see now. We've all got the social media, right? Guess what happens? Probably majority of the times people react. It's like, oh, that is so inspiring.
Yeah.
There's that sort of inspirational
Yeah,
quote,
yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the point in that if you're not going to do anything about it?
Yeah.
The same thing with ideas. I always tell ideas. Have you seen those ideas where doing a normal thing and you said, "Hey, that was my idea. That's my idea." Technically, that's not your idea. That's the other person's idea because they did something about it.
Yeah.
It's not your idea because you did not do anything about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I tell the guys, if you've got an idea, make the first step. At least if there's something tangible in there, whether if it works or it doesn't work, at least you can say, this is my idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Right.
it's not like,
and if it didn't work, we can learn from that. And
yeah. And guess what happens? Sometimes, I've experienced a lot, including these ones here.
Right.
When we first created this clear brew, it was just an idea. It was, if black tea will put hot water, how come they were able to make iced tea? Why can't we do that with coffee?
Right.
So you got long black. So we created clear brew. So for the traditional cold brew, it's the normal thing. But this one is new. I don't know anyone's actually got this product.
Right.
I'm not advertising it anyway. But what I'm saying is, if you got an idea, sometimes it doesn't work at first. But the more you do different ideas, guess what happens? At one point, that will click to your original idea, and then you can combine that, and it becomes like, hey, it is a product. So that's exactly what happens to this one. So, in things that we do, we really wanted to actually push that. In our business, we don't want to be doing the same thing as what the big boys are already doing. We
Yeah.
are already way, way behind. We're not aiming to beat them. We're just doing our course.
Right.
We're just following our own journey.
Yes.
Yeah, they do that. We're not even trying to beat. We're not even trying to compete.
Yeah.
We just do our own. We just enjoy our journey. Every struggles that we meet, we brainstorm with all the successful people that we have around our business.
Yes.
Okay, how do we solve this problem? And find the joy in that.
Right.
And lucky enough for us, we somehow overcome these challenges sometimes, but overcome these challenges. But we know it's not hard. We know it's also not easy, but it can be done. If other people are able to find solution about it, then we just have to spend time, and maybe we can find a solution to it.
Right. Right. Well, I can definitely see that you've come a long way from taking financial work documents home to do extra work at night. But since then, you have found the passion and the energy and the stories. And the first iteration was the coffee van, and the second iteration was the South Brisbane Hole in the Wall Cafe. Is that
Yes,
right?
yes, yeah.
What happened from there?
We've got a lot of people from there.
Right.
So that's when...
And how small was it?
16, 17 square meters.
Right. Is it about the size of this room? Or?
Oh, this is big. This is big. So it's about 3/4 the space.
Oh, right.
It's literally from that mic
Yeah.
there. This is it.
So basically,
That's
like
not
the
even
back.
including behind me, just from this.
Okay.
Yeah.
The back of a coffee van, just put it in a building.
Yeah. Exactly. And
Okay.
just a little bit of space for the fridge.
Right.
That's literally it.
And you had a few people coming through there working.
Yeah, so we've got it's a one-man band. So
Yeah.
that was the idea of Paul, running the show. So you
Okay.
get to meet.
Yep.
But then again, we realized we've learned a lot so much from this little space. And I think that is also the important thing. It's not just about the running of the business. It's actually trying to understand the essence of what you're doing, what is your purpose, what is, your people doing. It's not about, okay, how much did we make today?
Yeah.
How are we going to beat that target?
Yeah.
We know we can meet that. We just have to do all the talking, right? So now it's all about the commercial world is talking about how many cups did we sell?
Right.
How many kilograms did we have?
Yeah.
We're not talking about how many people did we connect. Imagine that the more people we connect, that also means the number of cups. Well, technically, the number of cups
Okay.
that comes in, right?
Right.
So that is the way I think, not the way of the numbers. So it's hard for me to kind of explain that because everyone else around me counts the number of cups in the kilograms.
Yeah.
I count the number of people that comes in and what do they do as a job. I'm always against about grand opening for business
Okay. Yeah.
because I don't like hundreds of people coming in at the same time
Yeah.
because I don't get to connect. I just hand out coffee. Again, our business is not just about the coffee. Our business is to get to know people. So we don't put signs, we don't put on social media that we're going to be opening this. Whoever comes to the door and see that we are open, one thing I can guarantee them is we will definitely have a chat. How did you come up with this? And so at least that one there, first day, second day, we know 100% of those customers are coming back.
Right, right.
So we've already got the statistics. That is my number.
Right. That sounds very accurate from my experience of walking into the Wollongabba warehouse,
Yeah,
which was I guess, would you describe that as a soft opening?
Yeah, until now it's still soft opening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but the good thing is, everyone that goes there will definitely have a chat with someone
Right. Right.
because that's what we want. And then later on, when we've got all the facilities that we have, all the plants that we have
Yeah.
in there and all up. So, yeah, we're still not going to do a grand opening.
Yeah.
But we're definitely going to make a noise out there that we've got, this playground that we're going to set it up. So,
Right. Right. So, coffee van, South Brisbane opening. It's about the size of a van. What led you to opening the second cafe?
we've now, at that point, we decided, okay, so we've got all the supplies that we need. So, in order for us that this is going to be okay, we're onto something here,
Right.
Now, the purpose with that is trying to. I've met a lot of people as well trying to run their own business, and it's not doing what they think it should do. The projection of like someone telling them this is the potential of this cafe,
Yeah.
and it just didn't meet there. So, like myself, I run the business. I didn't really have sort of a mentor to help me out. So we kind of lucky to kind of figure it out ourselves.
Yeah.
So I want to be that person to mentor those who don't have. They don't not necessarily in the coffee business, but at least someone that they can sort of confide with.
Right.
That, oh, this is really hard and things like that. I'm not going to say as an expert, but from my experience in my industry, this is what worked for me. So that's basically what I knew. And so at least somehow from that, other people tend to get some ideas.
Yeah.
And hopefully that can be useful for them. And that's when we realized that, okay, we are now building a community.
Yeah.
So not just about coffee, but we're now building a community of, printers. We've got now a community of like startups, young kids starting to do their own little venture.
Right.
And I was like, oh, that is actually quite inspiring because that is a goal to achieve. For
Right.
me, I want to be part of something that grows. I don't want to be part of something that's just going to be stagnant in there. It's going to drag me down as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember someone saying that once you reach my age, your ideas are old. You know what I mean? So,
Okay.
So I don't want to be old. I don't want my business to grow old.
Right.
So how do I do that? So I learn from the young,
Yeah. Yeah.
fresh. They've got all these ideas. They can multitask. They can all that.
Yeah.
So again, from that idea, so I find inspiration from these young kids, and through that, I can able to come up with ideas as well. That okay, we can actually form a business through that path, and then I don't know, create products or create something different.
Yeah.
And yeah, somehow some of these ideas kind of work.
Right.
Again, some don't, but hey, we had fun trying to discover that.
Yeah.
Which is good. So even the way we look at ourselves, managing the business is quite quirky. So, but it works for us. It is challenging because it's not usually like when a business finds, okay, we need to improve here. Let's find someone who's experienced in there. I always like the idea that, okay, that is what we want to achieve. We're not competing with everyone, so we don't need to rush there.
Yeah.
For as long as we can pay the bills, we can pay the people.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll try and grow ourselves. Who do you think within us has the best sort of personality or character to do pick someone? It not necessarily is the case. Sometimes they fail, sometimes they don't. But again, it's that discovery.
Right.
That's the fun part, isn't it? Yeah.
Do you have a story of an idea that just didn't work?
Oh yeah, definitely. So we're as a business, right? We're now have these few cafes.
Yeah.
So somebody mentioned in there that normally only big businesses can have like CFO or that board members.
Oh,
rather
yeah.
that board member for a big company.
Right.
It's like, why is it a small business cannot have a board member? So that's what we're trying to kind of form now. That
Okay.
we've got for a small business that we're trying to figure out who's going to be looking at the finance, who's going to be looking at this, and we put some people in there. It just didn't work.
Yeah.
One is they don't have the experience. They could not keep up with the changes of the demand of the situation because of just the industry alone.
Right.
Because we're not only baristas, we are also looking at management side.
Yeah.
So we're actually multitasking and then we're trying to reorganize our business into something.
Right.
So some was able to, it kind of failed. So, but somehow as well, through that failure, we have learned so much because that is the idea.
Right.
It doesn't mean that it's failed and that's over because that's not how we think.
Yeah.
So
There's always a learning.
there is always that learning. And this is what I'm talking about. We have to look into the essence of things. That through this discovery, through these trials and error, there is a learning behind that. And this is the essence of things. With the modern world, I think if it doesn't work, scrap it and get a management group that actually does that best and let them do it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, there is, of course, people that does that because that's how modern world works. But
Right.
we're a small business. We don't necessarily have to be that.
Right. Right. So it was the Woolloongabba outlet, which is quite a large space that I walked into. But as someone who doesn't even drink coffee, I was getting interested in this little brand that was popping up here and there, and I just found that there was something that just made me lean in. How did we get to the point where there was so many outlets around, and how many are there, and how did that happen?
This is not a lot. There's only about 4 actually.
Okay, right.
But the idea there is we want it to be like a gem. It doesn't have to be quite big to be out there. It's like a gem when you try and there's something there you want to find, and when you find it, it's worthwhile. So the logo is small. It used to be like a big coffee mentality.
Yeah.
And then on our first South Brisbane, we just want to have coffee. So there's no mentality. Everybody's saying, how do we know it's coffee mentality? If there's no coffee mentality in there. Like I'm not big at that.
Yeah.
And then same thing here at East Brisbane. My boss is always saying, oh, we should put out so big in there that people know that it's coffee mentality. Okay, let's do it. So, and then next is we've got the Stones Corner. So I really want it to be subtle. So we remove the coffee.
Yeah.
We just place the head,
Right.
which is in that sort of the logo.
Yeah.
And because it's not really about the brand. That's what I really want people to understand. Our coffee is never about the brand. Our coffee is about the purpose of the brand and the people in the brand. Because without these people, so you probably, if you've been to most of our cafes, we always have the photos of the people that's currently working in the cafes.
Right.
And I would really love to fill that wall with every single individual that worked with us, because that is the testament of where we are now. It is not about the brand. It's about these individual people that made this brand now. We're not big. It just looks big, but we're only 4 cafes. It just looks big because of these people. Trish advocating in there. And I always love the marketing of advocacy
Right.
instead of marketing through advertising.
Yes.
So it is baby steps for me to actually do something like this.
Yeah.
I have to tell you.
Yeah.
Someone has to kind of put a knife on my neck just to make sure that I do something like this. But, but because somebody also mentioned to me that I have to lean forward.
Yeah.
We've got greater purpose than just serving coffee out there. So, which I am very excited, and that's where I am truly passionate of. I think that is what I really love to kind of discover now from all this hard work creating the cafe. This is where that leads me. It's actually making that sort of grand change or grand move. I think seeing that I can make a difference in here. So only using this coffee or this brand to make change, if that's why everybody wants to do that. Like a lot of businesses wants to use sustainability as a marketing sort of strategy.
Yeah.
Change the world, make a difference, blah blah blah, all that. But again, it is just a slogan. I like the idea of really doing it myself. I would love to do a lot of coffee events, but because I have to really do that idea, I cannot be in sort of that environment as much as I would love to. So, yeah.
So we've touched on purpose and some of the passion and getting emotion in there. What would you say is the purpose?
The purpose for Coffee Mentality is in all this is, so as I mentioned earlier, to really make a difference in this world. That's what we wanted to ideally. We don't advertise that, and that's a personal sort of. There's 2 sides of this brand.
Yeah.
There is me, and there is Coffee Mentality as a business.
Right.
The purpose as a business is to really help young kids, to mentor these young kids to pursue the passion that what they really want, regardless if they work for us, or we connect with them, we collaborate with people. Again, not as an expert, but to actually share our story, to share our journey, and hopefully that will inspire these young kids to kind of pursue that, that brewing passion within that. You know what? Just let it out. Just let it out. No matter how much you have in there, just let it out. At least you're not going to regret one day says, that was my idea. You know what? If you did that, that could have been your idea. So that's one thing in there. Secondly is really it's our values. Second is the people, which as mentioned, the passion in the industry, but not just the industry, because our community now is not just about coffee. So as I mentioned earlier, we've got this young kid who's just come up and wanted to take photos of our brand, and I said, yeah, we can connect with that. So these are the little things. So we've got someone who wants to be an entrepreneur but doesn't know where to start. So we kind of said, do this, or maybe get that idea. Where can you come up, And then now is actually connecting with us to do his little business. So that's those little improvements. And then there's other people who's also like Danny, was passionate into coffee, running his own cafe. now running his cafe now. It's got a few cafes going. And we've got other businesses as well who's wanting to start a cafe but hesitant or does not have any guidance or people mentoring them. So this is where their passion to be entrepreneurs, we want to actually help those brewing passion within them to let it out, and we've got also this sense of responsibility for the environment because, again, coffee being the driver, everybody also know how popular the coffee is, how big the industry of coffee is, and for all this noise that we make our coffee, we only use a small portion of this, being as well one of the biggest traded commodity. But we only have one product to sell for the coffee, which is the green beans. What we're looking at is the essence of this. So I might get sniper here, but what I'm trying to dig into this is the essence for the environment, because about, if my math is right, 40 to 60% of product by weight through harvest of the coffee is industrial waste product.
Right.
So only a portion of that is actually used as a tradable product.
Okay.
So my challenge, I'm not saying I'm good at it, but I like to kind of discover that I'm sure we can come up with something in here. I'm not just going to do that. That is just sort of a project that we have to do. So while we run this business, we might as well enjoy that, part of saving the environment.
Right.
Little by little, I've always wanted to actually run a 100%, carbon or carbon neutral sort of cafe, which I think we are already there. It's just a matter of doing it.
Okay.
So again, my boss is, I would love to do, if our business now is going to flourish, I'm definitely gonna set, that would likely be my very last sort of project, to do a carbon neutral cafe from the wastewater that comes out of the coffee machine, from the waste milk that has already been preheated.
Yeah.
Like all of that, we've already come up with all these ideas.
Yeah.
So the closed loop, so that's already there.
Right.
Even the source of power, because the van already runs on gas. So technically, we already have everything that we need to do it. It's just a matter of setting it up.
Right.
So so it's about the people, the passion, and the planet. And that's what always brought us and, led this business, here. So that's always been our guiding path.
The Wollongabba location.
Yes.
It's a far cry from the South Brisbane hole in the wall. It's a bit of a bigger space. There's a bit of different opportunities there. What is the vision for that space?
Before I get there, each cafe has got their own character.
Right.
So the van, obviously, it's a mobile cafe.
Yeah.
South Brisbane being our first, it's always been designed to be a hole in the wall.
Yeah.
And then we've got our East Brisbane being sort of like the office area.
Right.
So we've got car
co-working
space, co-working space.
Oh, you can park out the back there.
There's parking at the back. There's always been more of like an office, a bigger sort of space. And that's where we cater our tasting experience.
Right.
We do our barista training as well. So where we actually meet clients and customers as well.
Yeah.
And then we have our Stones Corner. It's more of like that industrial feel.
Okay.
So we wanted to cater more of a sort of lively, rock star role, different machine. You can look in there. It's like sort of like in industrial, what do you call this? Like, construction kind of work.
Yeah.
Feel, that's why. It's still hole in the wall.
Okay.
And then we've got Wollongabba. So all the ideas that we have come up all these years, we would want to place in Wollongabba. And we want Wollongabba, not just for us as a business, we want it to be our warehouse where we stock all our supplies that we need to actually distribute other cafes and all our accounts. But it's really more about a coffee playground where, you will read a lot of things. That's what I want the space to be. You will be able to see, because it's really here, it's all about cafe. It's like, oh, you got this product. It's really designed to make money. Woolloongabba, we want is to be designed to provide education in coffee.
Right.
So, yeah, we will have a lot of reading materials that when people go in there, they probably spend the whole day like, oh, it's already evening, I gotta go. Like, so people can actually read and learn a lot about coffee. Because sometimes, people wanted to just do it in their own time. I want a lot of reading materials there. That's the coffee playground. That's what I want GABA to be.
Right. Right. Fantastic. And what are the steps to getting there?
We've got our biggest challenge at the moment.
Yeah.
Setting up the roastery, and hopefully by tomorrow and next week rather, we can fire it up, and that would basically be the start of what we want to be as our coffee playground. So we start then doing up all the other sort of ideas that we have in mind. So a lot of the product, we put everything in there where we want to be able to showcase every step of the production, from the coffee farms, what is involved in, as a producer in the fermentation. We wanted to actually bring in as well coffee plants to kind of educate as well. Education is a big sort of factor to us as well. So we want to be able to kind of bring in that education that, hey, coffee also grows in a lower altitude, not just on a high altitude where there is a big hype about it as well. And we can, highlight our urban coffee project, which is the coffee is grown here in Brisbane. And we are able to actually see as well the people that who are also part of our community, not just in the coffee industry. And as well, the process of creating the coffee from the actual farm, what is involved in a farm, perspective as a farmer, what is what is involved in fermenting the coffee, why do we have to ferment it, what is the process in the roasting, things like that. So it will really be there. So we'll make sure that people will be mesmerized with all that reading materials in the space, and we're gonna have people will go there and even taste the single products that we have, single origins that we have. And yeah, so we'll make it a playground. I'm even just tossing right now to create a space where they can even grind manually, not electronic, like using old grinders. They put a coffee in there so they can actually see themselves. They can touch themselves. I would really love to do that. That this is a natural process coffee before it starts to peel. And this is a coffee once it's already peeled. And this is what the, a green coffee looks like. Because some of them, they can just look it from a distance, but to be able to actually touch and feel it is a different, there's a sort
Right.
of different things in there. So
I see. Sounds like a very exciting next chapter in the
it is,
coffee
yeah,
mentality story.
but it doesn't necessarily happen that soon.
Right.
Or plans can change, of course, but that's the good thing about what we do. The journey is always fun. It's never going to be straightforward, but yeah.
Well, Ian, you shared a lot of passion from the story of coffee mentality's origins today, and I want to thank you for joining us for this chat.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great. And see how you smiled when you did that? People are going to hear that smile. Yes. Okay, we are all